Okay, so in the chat, and Rich, everyone kind of help me out with this too. Did everybody get the email about protein, or is anybody going to be using a protein?
Yes.
Yes, I see some head nods. Cool. Okay. If you want to put in the chat or even just come off mute and just kind of announce what it is, so that way I can kind of maybe give some feedback or so of when to cook it, when to put it in stuff. It just kind of varies if it's beef, chicken, pork, seafood. Tofu, great. Everybody's doing tofu. Awesome. Tofu can go in pretty late unless you want a little sear on it. So we'll tofu. Did you already descale or deskin the trout? Hopefully. I would fillet it if you had it.
You said the skin peels right off when you bake it, but it's all cleaned. Still has
okay.
Looks pretty good.
Cool. I see chicken, already cooked it. Great. Tonight I'm using scallops and shrimp. Again, this is curry. Curry is one of the most international foods. This specifically is a Thai red curry. There's Indian curry, there's Chinese curry, there's everything. It's kind of just like a little stew with a different type of flavor to it. So there is no set recipe. If you notice, I also kind of threw in something that wasn't in there. If you have another vegetable that's in your fridge that you're like, I don't really know when I'm going to use it. We had a squash that was like, or a zucchini that was super ready and ripe and ready to go. So I sliced it up and I'll be putting that in there as well. So if you have broccoli, if you have green beans, if you have anything that you're like, ooh, I kind of need to use this, that's kind of the beauty of curry, is you can add everything that you want into this. But with that, the longest process of this is cooking the rice. So on the email, I mentioned try to not use a minute rice and let's actually cook some rice. I thought I had jasmine. Sadly, I didn't. I have an enriched white rice. Still a long grain rice, still a full body rice. But with that, still need to rinse it. So if you have a rice cooker or an Instapot or anything, and that's what you're doing, fantastic. I have one, but as a challenge, I'm going to go back into showing rinsing rice. So let's just get that started quickly. Move this over. Let me know if you guys can't hear. So when rinsing rice, just kind of go and you'll see the water get really, really milky. That's all the starches and stuff that are on rice. It's just kind of not necessarily just a preserving aspect, but it's just kind of there. So I just pour it out, helps them from sticking. A lot of enriched rice, that's kind of the enrichment process. So you just kind of want to rinse it a few times. By the way, I have a cup and a half of rice in here. Since it's just my wife and I, we do tend to eat a lot of rice, but so I have a cup and a half, and we'll get into like how much water you need. And as you go, you'll start noticing the water getting clearer and clearer. Let's do this to kind of agitate it. This will probably be the last one, and then we'll probably be good to go. So now as it's filling, I can see the rice through the water. Kind of a good indication that it's pretty rinsed. So this will probably be the last one. I'll just agitate it one more time. You will lose some rice. It's, fallen soldiers. Wednesday's Veterans Day. Remember the rice that fell. So with a cup and a half of rice, I will, kind of a simple rule of thumb, is about twice as much water. So since I have a cup and a half, I'll do 3 cups of water in the rice. Okay, bam, that's what it should look like. And you don't really want to mess with it, especially if you have a jasmine or a good rice. I wouldn't even recommend like salting it or doing anything. If you wanted to, you could go nuts and like add like half of an onion or something into it to pull flavor, but we're just gonna do that. So turn it on. I'm getting it on like a medium high heat. We aren't gonna want this to like boil and go nuts. We're just gonna wanna get it warm. So now that that's going and start cooking, get it there, take a lid, hopefully a lid that fits, and just get her on. The rice is gonna go for not a very long time, but about 20 minutes. And that's like the longest process here. Okay, how's everyone doing so far?
If you have questions for Miles, I think it might be easier. Just unmute yourself instead of putting them in the chat. Is that
yeah, please. I'm super not official. We're not running a kitchen here. This is fun. So yeah, just unmute and talk. So while we're doing that, I'm gonna start on my protein because I want to use that skillet to cook all this stuff, and it's gonna give me a fond, which is gonna be like the brown bits and stuff that leaves behind. So that way whenever we cook the onions and everything, it's gonna give me a little bit more flavor. So if you have a protein, this would be the time to kind of get it started. Even tofu, if you wanted to do a small sear on it. So just quickly, because I went with sea scallops because I think they just taste better, no preference. I'm just gonna cut them in half because they're huge. I normally wouldn't do this, but time-wise, just management-wise, I'm going to. I was like, doing this for the New England. Whenever I was thinking of recipes, I was like, I could do like a chowder or do something fun. I was like, no, I will just get made fun of because it's not real, because I'm trying to do a New England dish. And for some reason, that's all that came to mind, by the way, was like New England stuff. Let's do like a crab boil, or let's do a lobster roll. And I was like, I will for sure get made fun of. I will do it wrong 100%.
Well, you got to say it correctly too.
Wait, say what? See, there we go. I don't even know what I did.
Lobster and chowder.
Yeah. All right. my wife knew apparently. So in here, if you have a chicken, or some people said that they were using chicken, but it wasn't, or it was already cooked. I'm just going to do olive oil. I know scallops are great whenever you put a bunch of butter. I'll put some butter in to finish it. But I have this pan warming up. I had it starting to get warm before the call, just to keep everything kind of liquefied and good. With that, so that way these don't totally brown. I kind of just want to cook the insides because I'll be putting these back into the curry, and the same thing with chicken. So since we're doing this, you might want to point that up a little bit more. There we go. Again, we're not professional. This is not Food Network.
It's about to be.
So I'm just gonna throw these in. They're not quite sizzling yet because I'm actually gonna cook them a little undercooked because I'll be throwing them back in, and I don't want them to get overcooked whenever I'm putting them back into the curry. Scallops I'll take out first. So we'll get that started. And then, as always, kind of wash hands and stuff between cooking stuff. So while that's going, is this anybody's first time using like red curry paste or fresh ginger or anything? Yeah, I'm seeing thumbs ups. Cool. So while I'm going over that, if anybody bought just, there's no really other great thing to call this other than like a nug of ginger instead of like already chopped up ginger, I'll just show like a cool little tip on how to prepare it, because it's Megan, I've done that so many times. This is actually my first apartment that I've had that has a gas stove, and I definitely always expect things to cook a lot faster now, and I've definitely turned on the wrong burner. But with ginger, you might think you want like a peeler. You kind of don't want to eat this skin. Almost every other vegetable or root or something most of the nutrition is stored in the skin. Ginger, we don't want it. If you want to do a peeler, grab a spoon. Spoon is going to work so much better. You're just going to take it and kind of just graze up against it. And you'll just notice the skin comes right off. It's also safer on your hands. If I like accidentally hit my thumb or something, I won't just start bleeding everywhere, because that's how us hemos go out, you know? I didn't see any laughs on there yet. Okay, we might be a little early for jokes.
Relax.
No, we're
Okay.
laughing
All right, cool.
hysterically.
We're still laughing.
Someone just might want to unmute and stay unmuted, so that way they can just obligatorily laugh at my really bad jokes, which will continue happening.
That's fine. You know, I had a lot of Aladdin and Jasmine jokes when you were talking about that rice. Maybe a whole new world or something like that. Is there a song? Can we get someone to sing?
I think Nancy could sing for us.
Yeah, my wife will be all over that.
I love
All right,
that.
right here. Rice going. Rice will start like heavily bubbling. Kind of a good indication that the temp might just be a little high. So I just turned it down just a little bit and opened it to let those go and bubbles go down. You want it to be kind of a really abrupt, like rolling simmer. But now going back to the ginger, we zoom in on it. I don't know what camera would be better. All the skin's off, but you notice one side is kind of like dried out a little bit. You just want to take that side and just slice it off. That's it. We don't want to use it. So all of this stuff is kind of compostable material. Oh, sorry, dogs. Apartment life. Someone got home next door. He should stop real soon. We have a beagle and an Australian shepherd, which if you don't know, one's really loud and one's really playful. So they can make a lot of noise.
Well, you got to show us pictures afterwards when
We can
we're
do
done
that.
cooking.
We can hold them up. They're right here. They're very active in the cooking process. So I'm just So I'm just slicing the ginger. It's kind of easier. At this point, if you had a grater, you can use that and just grate the ginger right up against it. I'm just going to show it this way, assuming everybody's kind of doing this an older school way without it.
Can we use one of these, Miles, like a microplane, or is that too fine?
No, so the ginger in this is really there for the aroma and flavor, not so much like a mouthfeel or anything. So you can absolutely make it as fine as you want or as big as you want. So I'm just slicing it up.
Nancy, I have the same one, I think. Maybe we use it for other things.
I usually use it for like lemon and lime and orange zest.
Oh, I use it for cookie edges.
Cookie edges?
Oh, because you're a perfectionist.
Oh, I am? We're going there?
No, slice it really thin this way.
This is a New England thing. That
There you
cookie
go.
edges?
Both are. Yeah, I don't think that's a New England thing.
I think it's a destiny thing.
Okay. Yeah, I know of like rib tips and like, you know, barbecue ends and stuff. I don't know about cookie ends. I'm definitely not from the South, if everybody is wondering. I'm from Southern California and then moved to Idaho and then Atlanta. So I definitely don't have Southern roots. So if on the next call you're like, sweet, we're gonna learn like Southern food, that's not the case. I wouldn't be expecting that.
Yeah,
So Miles, how much ginger were you using? Is that like too big?
It was about an inch. Like,
Okay,
yep, that looks.
that's like two.
Yep, that looks great.
Okay,
And everything else on here, like whenever I was chopping up the bell peppers, like you kind of just want them, you know, like julienne. So they're all kind of ish the same size. So that way they cook more evenly. The carrots I sliced up into rounds. They're like probably a straight 1/4 inch. And then the really like the far end pieces of the carrots I cut in half. because these will be the things that'll like have everything cooking a little longer because they're so dense that they take longer to cook. Really fun game. If you are in that sense that like all bell peppers taste the same, one, you're wrong, but you can do a really fun game, especially if you're cooking with someone. Blindfold them and like feed them something and see if they can guess which one's which, because there is ultimately like there is a different flavor. Yellow is the best bell pepper. Not even an opinion, it just is. But it's just a fun thing. If you're cooking and anything is new to you, like this is edible. Like you can straight up take this piece of ginger and like eat it.
Why not use green?
Mike, why not use green? American diet, and this kind of just goes back to what we use on the regular. Green bell peppers and green foods tend to be the most eaten vegetables that we have that are accessible to us. So this is just a great way to vary it up. If you wanted to use green, go for it. This is just a way to kind of introduce some new flavors, because there definitely are new flavors.
In fact,
Speaking of burner problems, our burner like turned off. So we just started getting some cooking going on the scallops. If you know, speaking of off to a great start, again, not professional, but it's gonna work out great. If anybody tries their fresh ginger, it should be like almost spicy, like have kind of a like a radishy type of zing to it. Just tossing these, just getting them going, getting like some sort of like crust to them. And then since I turned my heat up a little high on the rice to start, it already is starting to look a little like dry and the water's going down. So if you look in there, the water's not really there, and that might be getting too dry. So I'm just gonna take a bit more water, maybe like a half a cup, and throw it in there. Try not to like agitate it or like mess with rice too much while it's cooking.
I'll make it mad.
Don't even ask me why. I don't know. It's just kind of one of those rice cooking laws that they made way back when. I don't know. But all right. How's everyone doing? We got protein started cooking. Something's going on. We got rice made. Ginger's grated. How's everyone else doing on like other vegetable prep? Did everybody do okay with like chopping up kale and getting rid of like the big stem? Was that unusual to anybody? And
Can you eat the stem at all, or no, never?
And it's just terrible.
Yeah.
It's totally edible. If you want to try it, do it, because it's a really good like learning experience. The more of these like little veins that you can get out, the less bitter your kale will be. And the same rule applies for chard, with arugula. If you're making a salad and you want it to be less bitter and use a little less dressing, a lot of that comes from the stems of whatever you're using. And we'll get into kind of why kale is great later, but if you notice how dark the leaf is, put a pin in that in your brain. We'll talk about it in a little bit too. All right, so since scallops are getting a nice little char on there, I'm gonna add in the shrimp, which are just white bay shrimp that are already peeled.
Miles, what should I do with the fish if I was going to use it?
So if that was my fish, I would probably pan fry it just like I'm doing with the scallops. So I would salt up.
Coconut oil.
I would salt up the face of it. And then place it skin side down in the pan.
And olive oil or coconut?
I would use olive oil. George, sorry, kale not good for too much vitamin K. Fun, cool thing, and that's all individual. Fun, cool thing about vitamin K, and I'm super glad that it came up. Vitamin K is a factor-dependent vitamin. So our body can't actually process factor 9 in our system without vitamin K. Fun little fact. So if you have hemophilia B and you take factor 9 like I do, and I had 0 vitamin K in my body, I literally wouldn't be able to process and synthesize the factor 9 going into my blood for it to actually work. Fun little thing about how nutrition can affect your hemophilia. All right. I don't know what our metal tongs are. Shrimp goes really quickly, so I'm just flipping them and then I'm pulling everything out of here. With shrimp, you kind of want to see C's. So, and kind of start explaining that. So like this shrimp is already almost done, and how these are all starting to turn into C's. That's how you want. Once they turn into O's like this one might be a little overcooked already. That's kind of when you would want to pull them. So I'm just flipping them to kind of get a uniform color, and then we're good to go. I'm going to take out the scallops. I don't want them to be over. Since this is seafood, I'm using the same plate that I used before. If you had chicken, I wouldn't do that. I would grab a new plate to put them on. But again, I don't want these to overcook. So I'm sure you guys all know up in New England, overcooked seafood sucks. And I don't want to portray that in my non-New England self. All right, so shrimp are good. Okay, so now same pan, and this is gonna work too for your trout and everything else. Same pan that I made everything in still has all of this like stuff in it. It's called fond. We want that. That's delicious. So I'm gonna turn that back on. I'm gonna add maybe another like half tablespoon of olive oil. And now I'm gonna take my onions, which are all diced up. It said one small onion. This is definitely kind of a big onion. I love onion. Also, I sent my wife shopping and not me. So stuff like that happens. So I'm just gonna go right in, and we're gonna give that like 5 or so minutes to kind of turn transparent. It'll turn like totally clear, almost totally clear. So I'm gonna move this over. All right, rice is still going. All right, protein's done. Onions are in, rice is going. How's everyone doing? Do we have any people lost? We're all here.
Any questions for Miles?
Oh, I love the kale recommendation. Miles, that was good intel. Oh, I like the owls. Those are cute. Are those trivets?
No, they're pan, like if they're too hot, you can put these on your counter. I forgot what those are called. Hot pan plates.
Are they available on eBay later?
It's a trivet. Michael was right. Ding, 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 ding.
I definitely wouldn't know what a trivet is. Those little owls are cute. Did anybody play the bell pepper game and guess it right? Or notice different flavors?
So we're doing that after 10 p.m. tonight.
Ooh. Oh, we have another owl too from the Morse house.
We'll be using all of this stuff soon. All right, this is a good time to catch up. If you haven't, get a drink, something, because after this, things will kind of start moving a little bit quicker. Not too much though, we'll have time in between. So on the onions, Shelly's showing, you'll start seeing, especially with the fond, since there was already that kind of cooked goodness in there, you'll start noticing a darker color. That's not what we're looking for whenever we're talking about like a translucent onion. you'll look kind of in the dead center of the onion. Ziva, totally fine. That's great. Got onions in. Tofu isn't fast. Yeah, tofu you kind of just want a nice little sear because really you could eat it. You could eat it raw. But you'll notice in the dead center of the onions, they'll start going just nice and opaque. So judging by where those are at now, I'd say they're pretty good. So once they get, maybe another minute. I've also now turned my rice down to low, and it's no longer bubbling or anything. There's just a nice like steaming process, and that Shelly just let all the steam out. Just kidding, that's fine. Yeah, this is kind of where we are. Now I'll take my bell peppers, as this is kind of the next thing that you want to like sweat out, and you don't want it to be crunchy in there. So now I'll be taking my bell peppers and tossing those in too. I have them all just in the same bowl. This is one full bell pepper of red and yellow. This is so great. I don't even have to stir stuff. I just pour it in and go. You should get yourself one of these. This is great.
Miles, do I do the fish in its own pan and do the vegetables and everything else in a different pan?
So I'm a huge believer in like one pan cooking. Yep. Especially with stuff that's going to come back together because you're going to get a lot of those flavors.
Okay.
So once your fish, you'll start noticing like the edges will start kind of like lifting or like folding on the bottom.
Yep, I just flipped it.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so once, I mean, you should be able to kind of peel off a little bit, and it should like, the goal is to not it be see-through. Like the total opposite that we want the onions to have that kind of transparency in the middle. Fish, you kind of don't, and especially trout, since it kind of cooks white.
Yeah, let's try to throw out the skin.
Yeah, you'll start noticing it. It'll kind of start flaking, a little like salmon.
Yep.
And once you get to that point, I would pull it and then throw the onions in.
Okay.
So yeah, I'm just gonna give the bell peppers another like minute or two to keep going. And then we'll throw in the carrots and honestly, whatever vegetable you want. Like I said, I did zucchini just because we had it in the fridge. So if you have an eggplant that is just, you just don't know what you're gonna do with, now's a great time to use it. Maybe not like a cucumber, because cooked cucumbers are weird, in my opinion. I don't know. If you guys have a great cooked cucumber recipe, let me know.
Just here.
Can't think of one, but
Maybe you could teach us how to pickled or make pickles.
yeah, but you don't cook them. Yeah, or you eat them fresh. You drop it. Yeah.
Maybe a whole canning class.
Again.
Also, like I've noticed a lot of people don't know like what just a zucchini tastes like, or like these different bell peppers. Like eat stuff.
Yeah,
If it's edible raw,
Yeah. Okay.
take a bite. Try it. Eat stuff as you're going. Like. Oh, it is.
Miles, did I miss the garlic? Did you already say to put the garlic in?
I have not yet.
Oh, okay, good.
No, I will be
Didn't miss
putting.
it.
Yeah, I will be putting that in.
So, Miles, if we're doing tofu, should we heat that up in a separate pan? Is that what you said?
Tofu might, just because you're not really going to get a lot of fond and stuff from it.
Yeah.
So I would actually add in maybe like 2 tablespoons or so of olive oil. And I would try to slice your tofu about as thick as the bell peppers.
Okay.
So kind of do more of like sheets, but maybe like a 1/2 inch or so thick. And then, yeah, so then get like a nice oil going in the pan and then just sear it. You just want some color in it. And then I would pretty much pull it.
Whoa.
Okay.
Especially since we're going to be adding it back into the curry, and it'll kind of keep the
Sure.
What's this going?
Yeah.
Mike, no luck on tearing up, cutting an onion. You just, I don't know, you just get used to it. I still tear up all the time. Well,
Yeah, this, this.
thing. Some people say if you don't cut the ends off of the onion and you cut around it, it doesn't work. But some people say it and it helps them out. I think it's a mind thing.
I was told to rinse onions after you peel them and then take half a lemon and scrub your board with it. I have a wooden board. I don't know if it's the same thing if you have a non-wooden board.
That's like a lot of work. I don't know. Is tearing up for an onion like?
I have heard you bite on a piece of white bread while you're cutting it.
Yeah, that didn't work for me. I don't know.
Miles, did you add the ginger and the garlic yet?
Not yet. So again, we want them as kind of just an aroma. So I'm gonna throw them in right about now. Once everything's starting to kind of cook together, and then we'll be finished with this. In another about 2 minutes, once this has had enough time to kind of sweat out and roast in there as well. So you don't want to cook it. So cooked garlic has a different flavor to it. So I think even in the recipe, if you look it up, they say to put the garlic.
I'm not gonna do a slice that much.
No.
That's me.
Cooked garlic will transfer flavor a little differently. And in my opinion, I don't want that flavor in my curry. I kind of want that more like fresh garlic and fresh ginger. So I don't want it colored. I don't want it roasted or anything. I just want it to kind of sweat the natural oils and stuff out of the garlic and ginger. Okay, so now I have my garlic and ginger in and just going around.
Yeah, we should have peppers in.
All right. So I actually just checked on my rice. My rice is totally done.
Yeah. Look, you had it on small burner, nothing burner.
I'm going to turn the heat off on my rice and keep the lid on it. But your rice should be nice and fluffy. If you try a bite of it and it's still crunchy or there's like any sort of chew to it, and especially if it's dry, I would just add a little bit more water and keep it going for a little while. I might be the only person doing this. Instapots are kind of all the rave and everybody might have one, and I'm the only person cooking rice this way. If that's the case, cool.
We don't have one either.
Oh, well, I mean, they're very nice. I definitely have one, but I'm trying not to use it. I feel like for the last like 3 or 4 years, that's all my wife have gotten for Christmas or anything is like kitchen gadgets. So like Instapots, convection ovens, air fryers. We got a sous vide like last year, so everything I cook is like sous vide now with meats. It's, you want to try one of those or do a thing, I'm all down. Did like a 36-hour roast in a sous vide to do like French dip sandwiches. Extraordinary. All right. Okay, everything in here looks
Big, I think.
Oh. So I'm gonna take a fork, just regular fork, and I'm just gonna do the fork test for the bell pepper. The carrots won't cook that quickly until we start adding some coconut milk and try to allow it to heat better. I'm just gonna take a fork and stab around. If you're able to just kind of like stab it in, there's not a huge resistance or anything into the pepper, I would keep it cooking. So you kind of want everything to be like nice and soft and kind of cooked at this point, but we're about good. See how nothing's brown, nothing's like burning or getting a char to it. Everything for the most part is pretty great. So at this point, take this fun ingredient that's going to be probably new for a lot of people, and this is your red curry paste. In the ingredients, it listed to do 2 tablespoons of it. For anytime my wife and I make this, it's not perfect. Green curry, Green curry is outstanding. I'm actually a bigger fan of like Penang curry is my favorite, but it's a little longer process to do. I'm probably gonna use like almost all of this jar. This isn't that hot at all, even though it says hot on the side. Maybe we had a weird batch of it. But I'm gonna use pretty much that whole jar. Yeah, it's just, and again, if this is new for you, like it's edible. Like you can take some and like try it. It's gonna be weird. You're gonna taste kefir lime leaves. You're gonna taste different flavors. It's really good. So I'm just gonna take it in kind of globs. All right, let's start there. That's pretty much the whole jar. I think, well, like there's a little bit left in there. I'll use that to kind of add in flavor as I go. But now we just want all of that kind of cooking around, and just all the oils and all of the moisture that you're gonna pull from all of those vegetables are gonna kind of work and make the curry paste kind of spread easier. You're gonna notice everything kind of get like a deep dark red color. That's totally fine, and that's what we want. I don't know if everybody could see Shelly, but she's like trying to hold a tripod and stirring and stuff at the same time. Great. I mean, Rich definitely looks like he has an outstanding assistant. Shout out to all the assistants out there. Really, like, let's be real, they're the ones doing all the work. We're just looking at the camera and trying to be presentable.
My daughter Claire thinks Shelly is really cool.
Yeah.
Oh.
She looks awesome. Yes, she loves her tattoos.
Thanks. You can't see mine. We end up getting in like competition and stuff every time we go out. I get my arm done, my legs done. She ends up getting more compliments than I do, even though I had a lot more work, and it gets to me. And
Let's be real, I always get more compliments.
So anyway, back to food. How's everyone doing? Is anybody like falling behind or have a question about a step? We've gone through quite a bit. Has everyone checked on their rice?
We're covering rice, but our peppers aren't there yet.
Okay. Nope, totally fine. So again, after the pepper,
Yeah.
about a minute or so, you're going to want to add in your carrots and whatever else you have in there. And then you're going to want to and then add your garlic and ginger.
Get to the bakery. I mean, I took this a lot, and it's like, I think it's not ready yet. Why don't you?
Okay. So now that's been going for maybe about a minute. Did you say a minute? Maybe 2 minutes? I'm not like an egg timer cook. I don't like have one clipped onto my apron. I just kind of go until I smell stuff. So I'm in my kitchen right now. I'm getting a lot of curry smells, which kind of tells me it's starting to open up. The flavors are starting to come together. So at this point, you're going to get your coconut milk ready. Hopefully you got like a whole coconut milk and not a light. On the back in the recipe should say guar gum. If not, it might be a little thin and you might want to get some like cornstarch or something ready to thicken it. But if you have this, you're golden. Nope. So cool. Now I'm just gonna take it. Add in one whole can. You should get like a really satisfying like hush fell over the crowd type of sound from your skillet. Things should be going. At this part too, you're gonna take your sugar. I'm using, I didn't have any brown sugar. Brown sugar would be great, but I'm using an organic like raw cane sugar. A little bit about that. I don't know how much of the actual nutrition program we're gonna get into. Sugar is sugar. If you use honey, if you use agave, if you use anything, sugar is sugar. So it doesn't really matter what you do. Some of it tastes different, and that's really all it is. But if you're trying to do better by getting like raw, organic, whatever sugar, it's going to do the same to your body as table sugar. So just think about that.
How much do we need again?
How much?
About 2 teaspoons, teaspoon and a half ish.
Okay.
Yeah. So you're just gonna get that in, stir that up. And then this is gonna just kind of simmer for a little bit. And towards the end of the simmer, depending, like when I say a bit, maybe like 5 to 10 minutes. So this will be a great time for everybody to catch up. And we're also really close to being done now. So Jelly, you can pause on stirring the heck out of it. You'll just kind of get some bubbles going, but it won't be like going nuts. Really, a lot of the like extra temp stuff is just going off. A lot of the moisture is just kind of cooking out. Destiny, you forgot coconut milk. I'm trying to think.
Can she use whole milk or no? Or
So the coconut flavor is really what pulls and makes a curry. If you have whole milk or half and half, you can try it. It'll be a little different. And what I would do is I'd pull it off of the heat and just slowly add some in. I would try and use half and half if you have it, since it's a little cream as well as milk. It might have that same kind of thicker consistency. So I would just pull this off of the heat and then add some in and stir it and get everything going. And then kind of slowly start adding some more in just to thicken. It's not gonna have that coconut flavor, which is kind of a big component of a curry.
Maybe a coconut extract.
Yeah, if you have anything coconut, I mean, maybe not like, don't start attacking your almond joys and like tearing them apart for the coconut, but yeah, if you have an extract, if you have coconut water, you could try adding a little bit of that to get in the flavor.
how about coconut oil?
Yeah, coconut oil would be great, especially if you combine that. I think if you did that with a half and half and you started adding in some coconut oil, I would just taste as you go. So just take a spoon and just kind of taste it. If you're getting some coconut flair in it. What about green yogurt? Green or Greek? Greek. Okay, cool. I was gonna say I have no idea what green yogurt is. I'm about to learn something, but Greek yogurt. Greek yogurt's pretty thick. I don't know if you can like see it, but I mean, coconut milk is still runny. Like I said, it's more of a consistency of a half and half if you had it. Okay, that's been simmering for a good while. I'm going to add back in my protein. So at this point, I'm gonna add back in my scallops and shrimp, and I'm just gonna allow those flavors to go together. This is also why I kind of wanted to undercook them just a little bit, because they're gonna go back to this and cook again. There's also a bunch of juices coming off of this plate. Totally safe because this is all cooked. So bam, get that in there.
Somebody asked how many calories.
Good question on calories. That's going to depend on what you're all using. If you're using whole milk, what kind of sugar, what kind of protein. I can look. I think the original recipe that I found this from had it on there. So I can look and yeah, I can look if I could see it and get it to you. The cool thing about home cooking your meals is a calorie is more equal to a calorie. And I can explain that a bit while this is finishing up. Stuff that is genetically modified, or if you go to a restaurant, or let's say you get like a box thing of like pre-made curry and it has some modifications to it, or anything that says like low fat, low calorie, anything. Ooh, before I forget, kale. Add in your kale now. I almost forgot. Add in your chopped up kale. Get that going, because that kind of works just like spinach. Once it starts getting warm, it's going to just kind of like shrink and shrivel up. So we want that to get all going. But yeah, it's very easy with our nutrition nowadays to kind of trick the system into saying like, oh, this soda has 0 calories or this food has 0 calories, when really it takes energy for our body to burn it off. And all a calorie is a measurement of energy from food. So if something says 0 calories, but we drink it or eat it, and we either get energy from it, we can gain weight from it, our body has to work to burn it. That burning it, in a sense, is how they measure a calorie. So don't get fooled into stuff thinking it's no calories or not. This is great. This will always be better than what you can get store-bought or anything like that. Carbs, let's see. Might actually be able to do this. Sorry, we're going a little over time, but I want to make sure we get everything done. If you had tamari or your rice vinegar, this is where you would add it in. I'm just using soy sauce. You can't see it on this one. I'm just using soy sauce and then a rice vinegar. So, and this is where I would add both of those in, as this is just kind of a little like lightened flavor bit. And then while you're doing that,
Sorry, what did you just add? I missed that. I didn't hear what you said.
I added my 2 tablespoons or a tablespoon of soy sauce and a tablespoon of rice vinegar.
Okay.
And that's kind of the finishing. Like once that's in, everything's done. So really I could turn off the heat and let this kind of just chill out for a second and then plate it up and I'm good to go. Once you add that, you're pretty much good. And taste it now. Like taste. We haven't been adding salt. We haven't been adding pepper. This is where like grab a spoon, taste it. If it tastes kind of bland, add salt. Salt's going to unlock a lot of the flavor. If you're worried about sodium intake, don't eat some chips later. This is a totally normal amount of salt that you'd be putting in this, maybe like a teaspoon, maybe a tablespoon. But since the bit of calories and carbs came up, I want to go through and just show like 3 slides really quickly. Rich, hopefully that's okay. I'm trying to keep this on time.
Yeah, no. I think I know we're going to go a little bit past, but I think it's important.
Okay. So food in general are based under 3 main macronutrients. While you're going, I won't ask a bunch of questions. Usually this is interactive too. The 3 major macros are carbohydrates, fats, and proteins. This is really what food is to the core. First one being carbohydrates. Carbohydrates right now in the world of fad diets is kind of getting a bad rap, especially with stuff like the keto diet and everything else going on. Carbohydrates are your body's energy source. This is what is fueling everything, not just your ability to like pick something up. Like that took energy to do. Granted, really small, it's a really easy thing, but from your mind having to tell your muscles to move, that's taking energy, and your body utilizes carbohydrates to feed energy to your brain to function, to your heart to beat, everything. So whenever you're kind of tricking your body, it can get dangerous, but ultimately fine, because protein and everything has other energy sources in it. 2 main types of carbohydrates. There's simple and complex starches. So simple starch would be the sugar that we added in there. It takes nothing for our body to break down. So look at our liver as like a filter. A simple carb is tiny. It passes right through, our blood sugar spikes up, our body produces some insulin, and it kind of turns into glycogen and fat storage. A complex starch would be like the squash that we put in there, or long grain whole rice. It's a much bigger chain. It's going to get caught up on that filter and have to break down for a little bit first. And as that happens, our blood sugar never spikes. We kind of just get the energy released from it. And we kind of have more long lasting energy without insulin production. So without more fat storage into there, if that makes sense. Pretty much, if you can buy it at a gas station, it's a simple carbohydrate. Cool rule of thumb on that, not saying everything. You might have gigantic gas stations like we do here in the South. For the most part, though, if you can get it at the counter at checkout, it's a simple carb. Limit those. Fiber is huge. That's just kind of our body's way of processing everything through. And that would also be listed under carbohydrate. Then moving into fats. Fats also get a bad rep. People try to avoid it. Fats is what controls our metabolism. If you have a really low metabolism, whenever you eat something, your body will treat it as kind of a necessary thing. If you want a plate, okay, cool. Your body will look at that and store it because it's concerned that you won't be able to get food readily in the future. So our body's natural instinct to kind of hold on to it will come up. So as you kind of include healthy fats into your system, your body's natural response will change and you'll stop holding on to food. You'll burn it more readily, you'll get more energy from it immediately, and you'll just kind of go onto a consistent cycle. And fat is what really regulates that. So drinking a bunch of water to help fiber push through will actually control a lot of your metabolism as well, because that helps things flow through your body. And fat's one of those. Fats kind of like to stick on our wall. It also helps hormone production and reduce organ inflammation. Inflammation, that's a big word, especially if I'm looking at hemophilia and what it kind of means to me specifically. I don't like inflammation. I don't know about you, but it kind of hurts me. And it does a lot. It encourages the absorption of vitamins like A, D, E, and K. Again, K, you can't synthesize factor 9 into your blood without factor K or vitamin K. But there's three main things of fats, or three main types, and only one of them's good. Quickly, if anybody's not on mute or at the chat, could anybody say what the healthy fat is?
The avocado I just put on top of this Thai dish.
An avocado is the best form of it, but between saturated, unsaturated, trans fat. One of them is good.
Oh, what's the choice?
Saturated, unsaturated, or trans fat.
Unsaturated.
You want unsaturated.
Say unsaturated.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Little trick that helped me remember. Think of firewood. What would be the firewood that you would want to burn? The one saturated with water, unsaturated, or the one that's not even wood at all? I'd want to burn the unsaturated wood. So think about it that way whenever you're looking at fats and on a nutrition label or something. If it says it's high in fat, but it has 0 saturated or trans fat, ultimately means it's usually a good fat to eat. So avoid saturated fats like butter, lard, cooking oil, stuff like that. Use more oils, butter, or margarines. I'm mixing up now. Shelly,
Miles, does olive oil, does that have trans fat in it, or?
Nope, that's straight like an extract from olive, which is extraordinarily good for you. Avocado is the single best natural source of good fat that we can find, being a mono unsaturated fat, meaning it is like super pure, one string of fat in it, and it is a mono unsaturated, which is extraordinary. Last one is protein. I'm spent most of my life in Idaho. Protein is huge. Most plates are comprised of like 75% protein. It is also what we need the least of. Kind of a weird thing in an American diet where we eat a ton of meat. Protein, yes, it does help build muscle and give you gains and tone you up, but its main benefit to us is telling our mind and our body that we're full and that we don't need to keep eating. Protein is found in almost everything as far as animal and plant sources go. The typical American eats about 90% more protein than what's needed. Just in daily life, consuming everything. It's in the kale, it's in the rice. It's also in whatever protein that you added, it's there. and it works kind of like a trough. So if you get people that are taking protein shakes or anything to kind of build muscle, you know that drip tray that's underneath your grill that you have? Once that fills up, what happens? It just pours all out over your patio or anything like that and makes a big mess. Well, if you've ever heard of meat sweats or getting really lethargic after eating a bunch of meat, the same thing applies to your body. So your body is actually just trying to get rid of it because you have too much of it. So it works like that trough. The main sense of getting or eating a protein shake instead of a meal is you're kind of tricking your mind, telling you that you're full. That's the main benefit from it. So those are really the main components of food. I'll stop sharing this and show you guys something great. Oh, we might need the phone. But this is kind of what it'll end up looking like. Shelly went all fancy and use a chili garlic sauce if you want it to be even a little hotter. You could do it two ways. Some people totally separate the curry from the rice. I combine the two anyway, so this is a great way. And that's it. We used 2 pans. This is like 10 ingredients. Yeah, we went a little over. Once you get in the rhythm, you could bust this dish out in like 30 minutes. And really, it's a garbage disposal dish. Like you can use whatever's in your kitchen. The only like unique ingredients that you really need, which is kind of funny that someone forgot it, is coconut milk, the red curry paste, and ginger would really be like the only non-common ingredients that are found in here. But everything else is, like I said before, you can use whatever you want. You can look through your fridge, dig around, look at whatever proteins kind of has been in the back of your freezer for a while. I'm really curious how the trout is going to turn out into it. But yeah, you can use whatever. This is something that's been around internationally for thousands of years, and it's not going to go away.
Did you get the basil? People can put basil on.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. So I didn't even do garnishes, but this is also if you wanted to kind of keep sprucing it up. This is where you can throw on some fresh basil or the cilantro. Shelly did it with some kale, which is, yeah, garnish with kale. That's a new one, but whatever.
It's great.
It's echoing some of the stuff in the chat here. It's beautiful. Look at those colors on there and the dotting. Oh,
yeah, I've never seen Shelly do that. She must like you guys or something. She definitely doesn't do that for me. But yeah, the cool thing with kale, the darker the leaf, the more nutrient that's in it. And that goes with everything. So if you're used to just eating iceberg salads and you don't really like kale or chard or anything because it's bitter, try that technique of trying to get rid of all of the stems and the veins that are in it. The more of those that you get rid of, the better it's going to taste, the less dressing that you're going to need. And it's so much better. You're actually getting nutrient from the food. But I had a lot of fun doing this. I hope you guys did. I hope you guys enjoy it. It'd be cool if this is new for you guys. Don't really like eat curry or go out. I know I definitely have like a favorite curry restaurant and we eat curry a lot. But I had a lot of fun. I hope you guys.
Miles, we had a question come in. Can protein turn into fat?
No. Well, it's fat in a sense of like how it builds up on your body, or fat as in like the carbohydrate, or sorry, hold on, mind shift. No. As far as if you will get weight gain from it, in that sense of fat, yes, you can. But no, it won't transition, from being a protein to like a saturated fat. However, like beef has saturated fat on it, and that's like the marbling or the fat. That is a saturated fat. So it's kind of a loaded question. Can you gain weight from protein? Definitely.